dream home do you see when you shut your eyes on the sofa? I mean, is it a light-filled glass box floating on a cloud, or a stick-built mud hut stitched into the landscape? It might be one of these.
These are the spectacular homes on the long list, all hoping to win the Royal Institute of British Architects' prestigious House of the Year award.
We love this room.
I bet you blinking well do.
So far, we've seen houses from our experimental category.
These are all made from cork block. It's a giant dartboard.
Yes.
Yeah.
In today's episode, we're looking at a new category of 5 more houses, all homes which fit beautifully into their surroundings.
Those wildflower meadow roofs look really rich and lush. They're kind of little hats.
Each one of a kind.
Came up one morning and there was a broken egg on the front.
At the end of the programme, we'll find out which of these great homes have made it onto the shortlist.
That's so cool.
That's amazing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Then, at the end of the series, we'll discover which of them is the winner of one of the most celebrated prizes for residential architecture in the UK, the 2019 House of the Year.
So, sit back, relax, and prepare to enjoy a dazzling parade of the best new houses in the country.
So far in this series, we've discovered the first 2 buildings that have made it onto the shortlist. The playful, castle-like home that is Nithurst Farm, and the small but perfectly formed Pocket House. This time, we're looking at 5 ingenious houses from the long list, all of which fit to their surroundings.
This clever group of homes is intelligent, individual. These are houses that are special to where they are. They're not one-offs, and yet they always manage to feel part of the crowd. Some are elite masters of disguise, able to follow you at a distance without being spotted. Others hide in plain sight, using the materials and shapes of where they are. All of them are beautiful and ingenious. All of them cleverly connect to their setting.
Exploring these buildings with me is the architect Damien Burrows.
You turn the corner and you're in this courtyard and it just feels majestic.
And the interiors and design expert, Michelle Gunderhin.
And of course, that is absolutely epic. I mean, there's no other word for it.
In order to help a new building fit into its surroundings, respond to its context, you can choose to look around the environment and the buildings and incorporate the shapes and the colours of what you see there to make something that truly blends in. And that's one way of doing it. There is another, though. If you're clever, you can make a building magically disappear into its environment, like a stealthy ninja, so no one would know you're there.
Our first long-listed master of stealth is in West London. It's somewhere among this sea of traditional white-rendered wedding cake buildings, crouching like an architectural tiger. Blink and you'll miss it. This is Earl's Courthouse. Discreet, clever, and beautiful. Ducked down low, it peeks its gleaming glass head just above the wall.
Quickly round the corner.
It was designed by a lover of the minimalist, the architect Sophie Hicks, who also lives there.
When I started designing Earl's Courthouse, the aim was to maximise the potential of the very small site. How do we get something that feels really comfortable, that looks really settled and correct in the street, that uses every square centimetre?
The RIBA judges were wowed by Earl's Courthouse. They admired the simple use of concrete and the delicate insertion of this modern building into its traditional setting.
Sophie,
Hi, Kevin.
How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you very
Very
much.
well.
I found it. It's hidden rather like a little glass house, a greenhouse behind the wall here.
You don't see it very obviously from the street, and I like that. I don't want a flashy, look at me, you know, sock it to you house.
The open-plan living area is on the ground floor, with a compact kitchen tucked into the corner next to the light well. Downstairs, there's a master bedroom with a bathroom, plus a guest bedroom and extra bathroom. Earl's Courthouse makes every effort to fit in. It's covered in white corian, crystalline, synthetic and super hard, a 21st century version of the white stucco of the houses around. This home is well-mannered and polite, unlike some of the residents.
We once had an egg thrown at it at the end of
brave.
last
Oh,
year.
that's brave.
I know.
What, at the glass?
Yes. Came up one morning and there was a broken egg on the front. Human beings don't like change. Anything new, people are going to object to.
No one could surely complain about what's inside, though. Step down into this modernist TARDIS, and
Oh, this is much larger and taller.
full of light. Almost as though Sophie had decided to live in the open air, under an elegant concrete canopy. A structure partly inspired by a much-loved cartoon, The Flintstones.
Fred Flintstone was a caveman who had a car with stone wheels. And I can't remember the name of his wife. Anyway, everything was very lumpen. Wilma, thank you. So very heavy, very lumpen, and we're in a highly technological age. The glass is very sophisticated. I wanted to bring some basic human Fred Flintstone kind of aspect. So I said, why don't we do Fred Flintstone's tables? Because wouldn't it be nice to have a table that's really tough and strong and cast it on the column? This is how Fred Flintstone would make his table.
That's if he'd used concrete. The concrete here, though, was carefully moulded in precisely cut wooden shuttering that was dampened to produce an exact imprint of the timber that lines up everywhere. Between the struts and panels of the concrete skeleton, they inserted the glazing. Lifting these delicate sheets of glass into an incredibly tight space was no mean feat. But the results speak for themselves. There's a particularly ingenious window in the living area.
Oh, yeah.
It opens
right.
up to the outside.
I wasn't expecting that pain to... I was expecting something else to happen. It's
And
great.
it's so nice being so close to the tree, because in London to be close to greenery is very rare.
Big well.
Yes.
So rather than having
So this is the
bifelt over a
handrail.
patio,
So, you know,
this is just a handrail.
it's a very nice place to hang out. It's comfy.
Earl's Courthouse is a precise house, full of surprises. I'm a big fan of the hidden kitchen.
I wanted it to be as invisible as possible, because
Yeah.
it's in the living room, and I don't like a kitchen visible in the living room.
These are gorgeous. That's not plywood covered in rubbish. This is,
They're Corian.
the opening mechanism is glorious on
Yeah.
these because you'd
It
expect
just
it to...
drifts up.
It just does drift. You're
Yeah.
not going to hit yourself with
That's
that.
good.
Ah, this is a stroke of genius.
There's no sink, there's no dishwasher. Hey, it's behind, in a hidden little zone here.
Yeah. Everybody says, I can't live like this. I
It's
need to
fine.
make mess. You can do that in here.
Yes, so I cook here. I have my chopping boards here. I can speak to people who are here for dinner. And then all the messy pans and stuff I can dump by the sink or in the sink.
And they wonder
Yeah.
how you retain your pristine lifestyle.
Down a curvy concrete staircase, there are 2 bedrooms, equally pristine and pared back. When Sophie's kids moved out, she downsized to live in this minimal concrete cube. Then her daughter Olympia moved back into the guest room, just an interconnected door away from her mum.
The second bedroom was meant to be home office or dressing room / guest room, but Olympia moved in. So she's nicked my wardrobes.
This house is kind of designed for 1.5 people.
Yeah,
And you're more than a half.
it is a small house, so we're not stepping on each other's toes at the moment, but there could become a point when we do.
As in truth, though, does it work out?
You can't let the house get messy,
Right.
so it controls all your hoarding tendencies and all your messy tendencies.
And it controls those normal human chaotic tendencies with order and beauty, with the changing play of light on surfaces, with an experience which is private and yet connected, unassuming yet powerful.
There's a lesson to learn here, isn't there, children? Not to show off, especially when you're building in a really tight plot like this one in central London. See, this house is shy and retiring. It's not flamboyant. This building is modest. In fact, this place blazes with modesty. We've seen one house that's beautifully settled into its surroundings. There are 4 more to go before we discover which the RIBA judges have shortlisted for House of the Year. Frank Lloyd Wright coined the term organic architecture decades before anybody thought of using it to describe a carrot or a cotton bud. This great architect is famous for creating buildings and structures which ended into a sort of poetic dialogue with their surroundings. Good architecture perhaps ought to be a bridge to nature, not a barrier.
Architect Damien Burrows has travelled to the Isle of Man to see our next long-listed house, part of a wildly ambitious project to regenerate its surroundings. This is Restorative Rural Retreat, built into the hillside, clad in local stone, with a long ribbon window suggestive of a bird hide. It's attached to an existing traditional white cottage. Technically, Restorative Retreat is an extension. Its owners are nature-loving retirees Peter and Carol.
I've always had an interest in nature, ornithology, birdwatching. We ended up in the Isle of Man.
Well, I suppose when we got here, you really could say to yourself, well, actually, we could do something really special here.
We were able to set up a nature reserve.
At the heart of their nature reserve, they've built a spectacular home where they can take in everything they've created.
Hey.
Hi, Damien. Nice to meet you.
You too. How are you doing, Hal?
Hi.
Lovely to meet you.
Welcome to Sartford.
What an incredible house.
Thank you. Yes, we're very proud of it. We didn't want a huge cathedral. We wanted something discreet.
It then looks over all of the nature reserve. Not a clear day, but you can see it island from the house.
It almost feels like someone's just taken a great big broom and swept all of the stones into a big pile, and then you've started to carve into it and form your house.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
I don't think I've ever seen such a subtle, delicate, textural, more appropriate use of materials.
Oh, well, that's because a lot of this stone came from that lake that's down there.
This isn't just a home for Peter and Carol. They wanted the wildlife to move in too. The natural stone cladding is rough and deliberately littered with crevices designed to be inhabited by moss, birds and insects.
The bees have already started making nests in there.
So not content with sharing your land with nature, you actually want to share your house with nature as well.
Yes. I mean, all are welcome here. How long they stay is dependent on
them
and their predators. The house must fit in with the land, not the other way around, as if it's been here for 100 years.
The RIBA judges heaped praise on this excellent response to the landscape, commending the use of local material and the way it seems moulded into the hillside. They marvelled at the horizontal slot window and the thick concrete walls that provide a sheltered and embracing experience inside. The house is designed to be invisible to passers-by. The roof is level with the road and covered in grass. Both the bedrooms are located on the lower ground floor. The living area and kitchen diner are given pride of place with panoramic views over the land. A staircase library connects each floor with a glazed study built into the roof and a garage against the road.
Wow, incredible door. Love the scale of it, isn't it? It's magnificent. And incredible view.
On entering this building at living room level, everything seems bigger and expansive. the long ribbon window offers a mesmerising panorama of landscape. At one end, a picture window frames the horizon. Who wouldn't want to enjoy that?
It's almost like I've stepped inside and I've immediately stepped outside again.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And we were after a little bit of peace and quiet as well.
I think you've got a little bit more than a little bit of peace and quiet.
It's certainly quiet.
Yeah.
I think this is the best bird hide I've ever been in. Sweeping views over these sweeping hills. It's absolutely fantastic.
Restorative Retreat has everything the soul, mind and body could possibly need. Beauty, tranquility, and a high-tech Japanese robo-grill.
I put in this teppanyaki plate. If you've been to a teppanyaki bar in a Japanese restaurant, they use spatulas like that and they cook things like prawns and they flick them at you. it's that sort of, this is my dream kitchen.
The oriental discipline of the kitchen is matched by a rigorous palette of materials here, limited to concrete, timber, and brushed steel. It may be a local stone building on the outside, but indoors they couldn't find a lot of what they needed.
Building on the Isle of Man can be very expensive because a lot of things have to come from overseas. This huge piece of oak was brought over from England.
Because you don't have a lot of materials on your doorstep, because they're not commonly used, that puts another degree of complexity on the build.
We couldn't get concrete at one time, could we?
Yes.
We did get it finished, albeit it was about a year late.
The project took just over 2 years to complete. Building a new home that appears as though it's nestled here for decades doesn't happen overnight.
You could be mistaken for thinking that it had been here for 100 years until you start to look at the architecture a little more deeply.
Yes.
And then you see the use of very contemporary materials like Courthouse, that wonderful rusting metal trim around the window.
Yes.
They've used steel that deliberately ages and rusts with the weather. A sharp move by the architect, Will Foster, on what is an extremely exposed site.
You needed to make a building that could stick up for itself in this environment.
I've been blown over by the wind, so the corners of the building help deflect that wind. The windows are designed also to deal with the wind. So on the upper levels, there's no opening windows because you open them, they're gone. It does look bunker-like. It needs to survive. So we wanted to make a building that would stand the test of time, but more importantly, it would age gracefully with the landscape.
But inside, this house is rustic, comfortable and cosy. Its centrepiece is the atrium, with a double-storey library home to Peter's extensive collection of natural history books.
You know, surrounded by all this dark metal, the library could feel really dark and gloomy. But look, it doesn't. It's light and it's airy. And that's because of all of this perforated metal. It allows all the light to flood from below and rise from beneath, which means that I can sit here and read my book on sea slugs without even squinting.
The staircase is a thing of sculptural beauty. It took months to forge. The work was done in Somerset by specialist blacksmiths. Kyle and John worked together to bring the complex design to life.
It took 7 days to fit, and we worked from 5 in the morning till 12 o'clock at night, every night until we got it done. And then once we got the staircase in, we then realised that we still had the 5 tons of bookshelves to fit that were still having to get up through the house and up through the staircase that we'd already put in. It was a bit of a challenge the whole way through.
Peter and Carol set out to build a home in which to enjoy their retirement and share their love of nature. But what they've built is something their entire community can be a part of. They're now planning a visitor centre so local schoolchildren and eco-tourists can enjoy the reserve, with this extraordinary house at its centre.
To build a house that's in complete harmony with its environment, well, that's one thing. But by combining the forces of nature with the boldness of architecture, Peter and Carol have created a truly remarkable home.
So far, we've seen 2 houses that flex and fit to their setting. Only 3 more to go before we find out which of these remarkable homes gets shortlisted for House of the Year.
Sometimes the most powerful connections to things, to places, are the connections you can't see. The childhood ties that call you back home, for example, or a building that has echoes of the past woven into the very materials it's made from.
Our next long lister harks back a couple of 100 years to another time. It's hidden away in a sea of traditional brick-built streets, but it is ambiguous, enigmatic, made of wood.
Ooh, it's a bit of South London rustic.
This is South London House, dressed in strips of beautiful black timber. This time-travelling shed doesn't mimic its surroundings today, but as they would have been in the 19th century. It was designed by the history-loving architect Jonathan and his wife Catherine.
Well, this part of South London, there's a tradition of black stained timber boarded houses.
And that's typical of the style of houses that were generally around this area at that time?
Not something that every passerby would know, so Jonathan's provided a helpful explanation.
Hiya.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Catherine.
Nice to meet you.
How are you, Jonathan? How are you?
Hi.
In the wall, just there, there's a photograph from...
1890.
But there she is. There's a lady wearing an apron, staring sort of almost quizzically at the camera, and a very, very large fencing panel next to the house.
Yep.
At a jaunty angle.
Which could have been about here.
Oh, yes.
I suspect that this house was an improvised house on a bit of land that's not an official house, as it were.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of those then. I mean, this would have been a timber frame building, wouldn't it?
Almost certainly.
And given the nearness of the shipyards all along the Thames.
Built by someone who was working in the
Yeah,
shipyard.
with some liberated timber.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Courtesy of Her Majesty's government. Yeah, there's a very clear, quite a poignant relationship then, isn't there, between this and this? You know, what you've done is a 21st century take on that, I suppose.
The RIBA judges praised South London House as a wonderful family home that improves the place it's in and, poetically, conjures memories of what was once here. The horseshoe-shaped ground floor is built around a courtyard garden. There's a pair of bedrooms at each end, with a kitchen and living area in the middle. A single attic room provides extra space for a living room and study. Outside may take inspiration from the past, but the inside open-plan layout is clearly of now. There are hypnotically calming Douglas fir joists and beautiful clean lines. South London House is a world away from the city outside.
Immediately, incredibly peaceful, you know. And here we are, in this little Eden. Those wildflower meadow roofs look...
They've really taken off.
Really rich and lush.
Yeah.
They're kind of little hats the building's wearing. Yeah.
It is. It's a kind of sanctuary for us.
Well, it is now. The headaches of building it have been largely forgotten. Apart from the little reminders every now and then. The sewer in the courtyard, for example.
We have a public sewer crossing this site, which runs right through the middle of the site.
But no, there's a big round one there.
There's a big round one there.
Your own pet.
Our own pet sewer. We had to get a special permit to build over it, and we had to design all the foundations according to very specific constraints.
Aside from the sewer, Jonathan had to negotiate 5 separate party wall agreements. South London House is hemmed in on all sides by its neighbours, who closely eyed the builders as they worked, cutting steel reinforcement bar, sparks flying everywhere. Some more concerned than others.
The build was quite stressful because the yard is full of gas cylinders, which isn't the safest thing in the world.
All proper safety measures were adhered to, rest assured. This was a brownfield site. It's been transformed thanks to the clever, cranked layout of the building around that enclosed courtyard. This is really hard-working architecture that creates beauty out of almost nothing. The bedroom is a delight.
Wowee, that's very nice. It is beautifully done. The joists, all of a piece, with a frame that runs around the building with that little shadow gap. It's a thing of love.
It's a very nice thing to lie in bed and look up at.
It is. Absolutely, yeah. There's one room in which you need a beautiful ceiling, it's the bedroom.
Well, there you go, yes, that makes absolute sense. Yeah.
And if there's one room that needs a beautiful view, it's the living room upstairs.
Oh, this is splendid.
It's our kind of chilling out space, I suppose.
Somewhere to rest, somewhere to enjoy the view over the churchyard. Just quite tranquil, isn't it?
Yeah, no television up here, just relaxing.
The wildflower meadow is very beautiful. It sits quite harmoniously with the pink of the pink campion, with the plastic chair on the roof. Oh, and a view down to the courtyard. That is terrific.
Its carefully framed views make South London House a place to enjoy the best of its surroundings, the green bits of a grey city.
There is a lot of sound medical research from the past 40 years that shows that being surrounded by trees, with a view of trees, is good for you. It's good for your well-being, both physical and psychological. It's also a fact that being able to sit and drink lemon and ginger tea while looking at a wildflower meadow reduces the blood pressure by 28%. I just made that bit up.
The bit about the blood pressure, that is. The tree bit is true.
So, this new house sits on the site of an old one that was here 100 or so years ago, which is now long gone, but of which perhaps some stain, some memory remains. This house was probably built by, almost certainly lived in, by people who worked in the shipyards here. Jonathan and Catherine enjoy that sense of history, that contact. They relish in this new house that reverberation to the history of this place. There are some places that if I were to lead you there blindfold and then show you the buildings and what they were made of, you would instantly know where you were. Bath stone houses, the red bricks of Manchester, the earthy cob of Devon, the granite of Aberdeen, and all of these materials speak of their place. And so making houses out of what can be dug up from the earth connects a building to its surroundings.
Our next long lister has dug deep to connect to its beautiful setting in Hampshire. Damien has travelled to see it.
Oh, now, wasn't expecting that.
This is Hampshire House, covered in locally sourced flint. Home to 3 generations of the same family, this house is built on a grand scale. But it's broken up into neat, boxy sections that fracture its size and settle it into the trees.
So it really feels like it's embedded back in.
It was designed by the architects Neil McLaughlin and Joanna Karatzas.
Joanna, great to meet you. Great to meet you. It's incredible. I mean, driving down there, the large flint wall, it almost feels quite medieval, but you turn the corner and it's just like, wow, it's a whole different experience, isn't it?
This is the entrance courtyard, where you're welcomed into the house.
I love as well with the flint, the level of craftsmanship is incredible.
Yes, so flint was important.
So important that a whopping 60 tons of it was used to dress Hampshire House from top to bottom.
Flint is very local to the area. You find it in the fields, you find it below your feet. You know, as the tractors go through and plough a field, they put all the flints to one side in a big heap. So a lot of them are actually found like that and used in construction.
You see a load of architects in black polo necks picking them up.
Yes, you do sometimes.
Along with the flint, they've used Purbeck stone from the neighbouring county of Dorset in the most beautiful way.
In every bed of the stone, it changes in colour from the top of the bed to the bottom of the bed. So we were able to use it in the building to show the layers of the ground.
So you extracted the stone from the quarry and kept it in the same order, and you can see on the corner here. I mean, it's a wonderful effect.
It's not just the materials that tie the house to its setting. It is literally part of the place. The building's dug into the hill. At the back of the house are the quieter spaces, a granny annex, library and office, plus a double-height swimming pool. At the centre of the home is a double-height kitchen, a general living area and a master bedroom. There's a family block with a TV room and kids' bedrooms above, and there are guest rooms with a formal living and dining area below. It might appear as a stone fortress from outside. Inside, it's altogether softer and woodier.
Oh, lovely oak panelling.
The kitchen is a world of timber all of its own.
Oh, wow. This is incredible. The height, the volume, it's spectacular. I don't know whether I should be chopping vegetables or kneeling down to pray. It's got that sort of a wonderful, uplifting, light-filled chapel feel about it. The timber work and the joinery in this room is exceptional. You can look up through here, you can see the joists flying off in 3 different directions. I mean, this is clever stuff.
The oak ceilings tie together the various parts of the house. So the joist was set out to follow the directions of the views and the relationship to each room.
The architects tailored Hampshire House for 3 generations of occupants by designing it as a series of smaller mini homes that each generation can live in independently.
You could close down that and that and that and that and just live in that little cube there. They have their bedroom upstairs, they have the kitchen, they have the family room with a dining table. So you can live in that small bit of the house, and it's meant to be something that feels as though it's the right size for whatever group of people is in it.
Ingenious. The RIBA said this home radiates tranquility in a way that should be celebrated and commended. The judges also praised Hampshire House for the use of comforting natural materials and were hugely impressed with the building that connected to the immediate landscape.
We designed the openings to be as large as possible to bring you out into the landscape, or you bring the landscape into the room.
And if you were going to pick a room to have as your main bedroom, then this is it, isn't it? Because, I mean, look at this.
The views are subtly enhanced thanks to a clever design.
By tapering these columns out from the back to a fine point, it means that when you're inside the room, they're not obstructing your view of the wonderful landscape, and they let the sunlight just flood into the room.
The precision building frames were formed from concrete poured off-site, with local sand added to the mix to help it match the warm grey Purbeck stone around it.
There are few houses that connect with its surroundings like this one. From its locally sourced materials to its pavilion-like structures which reach into the landscape and pull you in. For Neil, Joanna, and all of the craftsmen involved, this house is a heartfelt love letter to Hampshire.
There's only one more house to see, one more which responds imaginatively to its surroundings, before we find out which the RIBA judges have shortlisted for House of the Year. Beautiful landscape, isn't it? Although putting up a house, someone is putting up something extraordinary in a place like this comes with its own set of challenges. For example, how do you make sure that whatever you put into it feels appropriate, doesn't trash the place?
Michelle has travelled to see our next remarkable house on the Isle of Skye. Beautiful, windswept, craggy mountains, wide lochs, sweeping expanses of unending coastline. Any new building would do well to fit into this extraordinary landscape.
Okay, now this is exciting.
This is Black House, and it beds in beautifully. It's wrapped in a Siberian larch cloak that connects it to the shadows of its setting. Although its dark and brooding presence contains an interior that is the very opposite. Black House has been sunk into a natural hollow in the rock. You enter through a small hallway on the upper floor, where there are 2 bedrooms and a study, surrounding a light-filled stairwell. The dramatic view of the sea opens up on the lower floor with an open-plan kitchen diner and a large living space cantilevered out over the rocky foreshore. The owners, Julian and Delia, first visited Skye over 30 years ago, and they've been coming back ever since.
I like to be out in the weather. And I just love the mountains, and the hills here are just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it just felt magical the minute we came down here.
They decided to retire here from London and build a place to enjoy the magical craggy setting they love so much.
Hello. So nice to meet you. And it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Suddenly this whole house really kind of opens up for me. Echoing this kind of dark, massive rock that's all around us.
Yeah. Around here there's interesting, structures, interesting shapes, but really all the drama is at the front of the building, so we want to have the most emphasis on that.
You get a kind of wow when you see how close you are to the sea.
Come in.
Suspended above the waters, the interior is all serene. The kitchen steps down to the living area, following the rocky slope of the shore, to deliver an incredible view.
That is absolutely epic. I mean, there's no other word for it, is there?
It's pretty special. Every day I come down and have the same experience. It is astonishing. The view is the point of this house.
It's completely sort of unfettered connection with outside. I mean, this window is absolutely enormous, but all the detailing is so sort of skinny and discreet. Yeah. What's it like in a storm?
It feels rather wonderful, being as if you're at the front of a ship or something, I suppose.
Yeah. When it's wild outside and you've got the stove on, and it's nice and warm in here, and it's just the contrast is very nice.
Not so nice, though, for the builder, Frankie Wallace.
Weather was against it quite a lot of the time. Boys were actually getting saturated, on days when they were painting it. A few times we had to replace some of the insulation because once that was soaked through, that was it, what I mean?
One day I came down here and one of the builders who was doing the painting on the outside had a full survival suit, such as you'd wear, on the high seas or something. Was out there painting it, still getting soaked, but, was giving it a go.
That is dedication.
It really was, yeah. Yeah, we watched him from the car.
The finished house is protected from the raging wind and rain, partly because it's sunk down. In order to lower the house 4.5 meters, 1,200 tons of rock had to be broken up with a hydraulic hammer and moved off-site. That cost over £50,000, far more than they expected.
The contingency went on day one, so that was kind of rock breaking.
So your money buffer that you kind of got just in case.
Yes.
All gone.
All gone.
Right at the beginning.
I've forgotten all the difficulties. I've repressed them. I will possibly wake up screaming in the night at times, thinking about these terrible things that happened.
Because until they started breaking rock, they actually didn't know how much and how solid and, what the extent of it was. And then your father died with suspiciously good timing. I'm not sure if you can say that.
He was 92, but no, it was just a small amount of money, which just came in when it was necessary. So that was fantastic. Because in a sense, when you retire, there's no more money. It's not like you've got a great earning potential. You can't increase the pot that you have. So it's pretty worrying.
It was worth all that worry. The judges complimented Black House on its strong connection with the shoreline, its breathtaking views across the water, and the minimal interior, which upstairs is enriched by objects that Julian and Delia have collected over the years on their regular trips to South America.
The design was basically had in mind the fact we had lots of things that we wanted to show off, and we wanted to have them around so we could enjoy them rather than put them in a cupboard somewhere.
It was kind of the point of home, isn't it? At this point in life, that you're surrounded by almost like they're like the talismans of your life, aren't they? This is your story.
Yes. You know, there's a history to every object. We kind of know where it came from or who gave it to us.
This isn't just a place for Julian and Delia to remember their past lives, but to enjoy today and tomorrow in the moment, in whichever room they find themselves. But burying 2 stories into a void dug from the rock wasn't easy. Planning is very restrictive in this sensitive area, as the architect Laura Stevens knows.
It's quite rare to build a 2-storey building. There isn't really a strong precedent for it in this area. Sinking the bulk of the building down behind the rock, it was the least impact on the site.
Good for the surroundings, good for the neighbours, who had some initial concerns.
First impressions as it was going up was it was very dominant. In fact, the nickname locally was the Death Star because it was this big black thing. But because it's low down, it doesn't really dominate us. And in fact, by planting trees, we don't even see it.
The beauty of this building is that it's an elegant, modern home, but set within an ancient landscape, such that it really adds to the environment instead of competing with it.
There you have it. 5 incredible homes that all respond to where they are in the most breathtaking of ways. So which of them will the RIBA judges put through to the shortlist?
Earl's Courthouse, the concrete and glass chameleon, easy to miss but hard to forget. Restorative Rural Retreat, a supersized stone bird hide, home to creatures great and small. South London House, a poetic solution to a sensitive urban plot. Hampshire House, a modernist mansion with generous views on a grand scale. And Black House, a shelter on the shoreline that's almost as dramatic as the view. The chair of the RIBA's judging panel, John Pardee,
very beautiful,
can tell us about the first house to make it onto the shortlist.
So this category is all about context. So what have you shortlisted for it?
This is the Restorative Rural Retreat.
In the Isle of Man?
In the Isle of Man.
Restorative because it restores well-being, or?
Restores well-being, and they are restoring nature at the same time.
Why does this make the shortlist?
I think this was an exceptional building, beautifully done, very passionate, both clients and architects. This is all about hunkering down, building on the site, and just making something very contemporary out of lumps of rock and bits of concrete.
Yeah.
And a few bits of metal. And it's got this fabulous set of staircases, which are some of the most beautiful I've seen for years. Fabulous.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Well done. That's brilliant. I'm really pleased.
I am over the moon!
So, Restorative Retreat is on the shortlist, but there's room for another one.
So what's this project that you've shortlisted?
This is the Black House on the Isle of Skye.
Why shortlist this project?
What a landscape. It was fabulous. It just fits, just by using the right materials. So it's a box, but it's a box with a few little tricks. You get that wonderful change from a black, slightly rough carapace. And you walk in and it's smooth and it's white and it's abstract. And that was a lovely contrast. So the key moment in this building is when you go down and then that room. Just that room with that view straight out. And you're catapulted out as if you're falling in the water. And you could sit there forever. That is a special space.
That's really surprising.
Well done.
Oh my goodness. I just can't believe it. Because I look at the list of the other houses, I've seen other houses, and I'm just like my heroes.
So the competition continues, with Restorative Retreat and Black House added to the shortlist. But there's room for 3 more before we find out who has won House of the Year 2019.
Sometimes the idea of standing out can be less than outstanding. Equally, to blend in, to camouflage yourself into a landscape can sometimes be a cop-out. The homes you've just seen, in fact, all sit quite proudly in their surroundings, and yet they all also speak softly but clearly of the need to belong. And they can all pack a punch when called on to defend their position. Ultimately, all great architecture can and should enhance where it is and enrich our understanding of a place. So let's have more of it.
Next time, we'll be looking at houses that are down to earth.
This space is incredible. What was the budget?
350,000. Budget isn't a barrier to creating interesting spaces.
Wow, very simple and elegant.
These are plain-speaking, simple, honest homes. The sort of houses you'd want to go to the pub for a drink with.